always fight to be in front of somebody. Always reconnect with people that you've already had as clients, and always consider every day how this is going to play out in the next 3 years. So it really doesn't matter what temperature it is outside, if it's summer, if it's fall, if it's COVID-19 or global freaking warming or some other disaster. Don't negotiate with the offense, defense, and strategic times that you have.
I've learned so much over this first year of podcasting, and I wanted to share with you guys the 10 most life-changing lessons that I have learned this year. So I created a document, and it's on my website. What you're going to do, you're going to go there. It's going to be 10 life-changing lessons. Click on that button. It'll ask for your email address so I can email it to you. Sign up for it, because these life lessons radically changed the way I viewed my life and the way I started living. It helped me to get better in the areas that I've so desperately wanted to see progress and growth in. And because I know they helped me, I really believe that they will help you. And I wanted this to be a gift for you guys. So I really hope you enjoy this gift, and go to the website, thewholepersonpodcast.com to get it. It's free. And I hope you guys enjoy and learn as much as I did from it. Today, we don't have a stranger to the show. We have someone that not only has been here before, but if you're walking in a dark alley, this is the type of individual you don't want to mess with, because you'll get laid out flat. We want to welcome back to the show, Thom Shea. Served our country for 23 years with distinguished valor in the U.S. Navy SEAL. During his military career, he served in 3 wars, ultimately leading a team of Navy SEALs into Afghanistan in 2009, where he earned a Silver Star, Bronze Star with Valor, Army Commendations with Valor, and his 2nd Combat Action Medal. He was hand-selected to serve as officer in charge of the famed SEAL Sniper course from 2009 to 2011. Also, he is an amazing author. He's written several books. Most recently, his new work is called 3 Simple Things Leading Through Chaos. And his first book, Unbreakable, A Navy SEAL's Way of Life. Welcome back to the show, Thom. How are you?
Thanks, brother, having me on. Doing well. Thank you.
Good. Well, just to jump right into it, man, how are you guys doing during this time of the COVID crisis and everything like that?
It's been asked several times, and I think my answer is pretty solid now. I have been threatened devastation for 28 years now. Somebody's always threatened to kill me. This is going to be bad. Things aren't going to turn out. So when I realized in December something was going to happen due to some friends from different named units, me as a father, I pivoted my family. I realized something was going to change. As a business owner, I realized that I wasn't going to be able to do business like I had been before. In December, and like I was saying offline, now that the family's all home, we decided that we were going to have the greatest 3 months that we could possibly have. So I had to get back into teaching, which teaching math. I thought I had been done with that for good. I had to bring that back up, and we've been doing great things as a family, and businesses, we're booming.
Right. You know, there's a little lesson in there that whether we caught it as an audience or not, but one, you knew something was coming, so you were being observant of your surroundings. 2, you weren't afraid to going back to something that you didn't want to do to make sure you could provide for your family. And especially in this time right now where a lot of people just need to find side hustles or just something. Might not be your dream job or anything, but it's something to provide. So those are some good lessons there. Well, man, you came out with your brand new book. Hold it up for us and tell us what it's called.
It wasn't supposed to be out until Memorial Day, and Amazon jumped the shark. So the book is being delivered, if you will. And 3 Simple Things Leading During Chaos. I wrote it not obviously to my family this time, like Unbreakable was written to my family. I wrote it because I think the older I get, the more I realize that nothing is secret. So I was retaining this secret formula that I had produced to train executives. And so I wrote a book about, post retirement, how to train, or how I designed a formula to train executives to increase their life in 5 areas: their health, their ability to continue to learn, their business, their relationships, and their spiritual life. And boils down to 3 simple things.
You know, I absolutely love that because it's so on point with our message here with faith, family, finances, friendship, fitness, and fun. The idea of being a whole person. And so in your book, there's multiple points, but there's one I believe that talks about starting over. And we're in a time in our country where a lot of people are going to be starting over. Or there's a lot of people, such as myself, for the last 10 years, it feels like every single year I'm getting hit in the mouth and I'm having to pick myself up, dust myself off, go charging again to get the crap kicked out of me by the world, get knocked down, get up, and just feel like you're taking a beating. So how does someone start over or even get up to continue to do the hard thing?
I would phrase your question differently. I don't know why.
Rephrase it.
Yeah, so I'm going to rephrase it if you don't mind. Starting over is the only common thing that all humans have. Like the patterns of life actually design themselves to start over. So, and you had mentioned something. I actually know that the world doesn't kick you in the face. We miss things. So we end up kicking ourselves in the face. And I had learned that as a kid. I'd failed out of West Point, and it felt like the world did that to me. And the older I got, the more I realized it was me. I had made a grief, or I had given up or something. So so I had to start over. I had to redesign the person that I wanted to be at the brink of when things weren't working out. And so I went into the SEAL teams thinking, wow, this is really going to be me. I'm going to figure this out. This is it. So I think I still know the hardest training for a human to go through. And I didn't make it through. So I made it to a condition called Hell Week, which is a 5-day ordeal into hell. And you don't get a lot of sleep. And I made it to a Wednesday of Hell Week, and I got a concussion. And I had to start over. And I had already thought I knew how to start over. So I started over for the second class. I made it to Hell Week again and dislocated my shoulder. They realized they weren't going to get me to quit. So they said, okay, if you heal, you can stay here and come back. So I healed, came back to another class, made it to Hell Week, and got pneumonia. And since I wasn't going to quit, they allowed me to start over. And so I started over again and made it to Hell Week with pneumonia the whole time. And I ended up getting kicked out of that Hell Week because I had all 5 of my lobes, about 50% filled with fluid, and there was scar tissue developing in my lungs. So they kicked me out of the SEAL program. And I had to start over again. Now, what would have been the 5th time to get through Hell Week. And I realized during that start over period, when I really wasn't clear what I wanted to do or who I was, that it was easier just to redesign myself. And instead of being woe is me and listening to the naysayers, and the naysayers are everywhere. My parents were naysayers, girlfriends, friends. The Navy was a naysayer. I said, I'm going to start over and do it because I think honoring your word, meaning do what you say you're going to do, isn't a time derivative. It may take 10 years for you to, be a good dad or be a good businessman. So let it be 10 years. You have to redo it as many times as it takes until you get there. So I finally got back, got into SEAL training, made it through Hell Week, and made it into the SEAL teams by being with the master of starting over.
You know, what I'm about to say has nowhere near the severity of what you went through. But do you remember the old school Nintendos?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the reset button on there?
Yep.
For whatever reason, your story reminds me of having to you're doing well, but then the game freezes and you have to hit reset. And you get to a certain point and you have to hit reset. And the mental shift that you had to go through to not just start over, but in a sense, reset your mentality.
Yep.
And reprogram your way of thinking, because your experience last time isn't going to be the same experience. So you had to go in there with a different mentality. What was that process like?
That's what keeps people from starting over. And I break it down into some really simple factors. When you fail, the human condition doesn't want to take responsibility for their own failure. So what I had learned, not only failing out of West Point, but not making it through Hell Week so many times. After the first time not making it through, I had to realize that I couldn't keep doing it the same way. Like I was the one trying to win every single thing. And if I kept doing it that way, I was going to have the same result. And so I had to give up on my plan. I'm going to not quit, but I have to give up on my method that I thought was going to get me there. And I thought that method was going to work. So I go into the next Hell Week and it didn't work. Something else didn't work about me. And so during the recovery period, you have to reset how you look at things. And that's the hardest part, is to take 100% responsibility that I dislocated my shoulder, I got a concussion, I got pneumonia, the world didn't give it to me. So what can I do this next time that would prevent those occurrences from happening? So obviously you change some physical things. The physical things are just a level of responsibility, but the mental, getting through the mental anguish of blame and doubt is brutal. And I had developed a kinship with an older guy at that time. And he said, let me tell you something. I'm 70. When I look back at things, I learned that I shouldn't have been so emotional about everything that went good and bad. So he said, I recommend you not being emotionally attached to anything that's happening. If you're getting yelled at, don't respond emotionally to it. And that has been one of the keys to what I call not only my success, but the success of my family, is teaching them that emotional responses sometimes are not needed.
That is so good. You know, do you remember? If you do, that's amazing. If not, because I know you do this like 4 or 5 times a day. But in our last conversation, I talked to you a little bit about how I was struggling with anxiety and, just my weight and other issues, my knee at that time, because I don't know if I had surgery when we last talked or not.
No, I think you're going to get into it.
Yeah, had surgery. Surgery went well. Recovery has been a very difficult road, a lot longer than I anticipated. And there's those conversations that you have with people that you will always glean a nugget from and remember. And doing this podcast, I get to, have a lot of those, but one of those came from you, and it was kind of exactly talking about not being emotional to things, and essentially realizing when it came to anxiety, which I was really struggling with, and even my weight and some of the stuff that I opened up about, you basically just said either you need to show up and do something about it, or just kind of stop complaining about it or letting it affect you. If you're not willing to do what it takes to change it, then don't expect anything different in how you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, I'm not going to say that was the one thing that kicked my butt in gear. It's just a multiple of things that you said, that other people said. And just to give you an update, and I've lost 30 pounds since you and I last talked. Anxiety-wise, it's gotten a lot better. I'm still learning about that whole process and stuff. But it all accumulated from being responsible, what you're talking about, for yourself, and not trying to do the same thing over and over, expecting a different result.
Yeah. Emotions, I had to create a method to teach emotions as opposed to talking about emotions. And maybe since then I've become better at explaining it. And so here's how I explain it. Emotions and problems are twins. They arrive at the same time. When you react emotionally to something, you never get to solve the problem. So if you're angry or anxious or afraid or happy even, you never get to deal with the problem that emotion came with or is trying to adapt to. So you lost $10 million. Most people's emotional response is sadness, anguish, fear of the unknown. So they spin in the cycle of emotionally reacting to it, and they never get to deal with the problem that it came with. Overweight is data. So you weigh a certain pound. Like, weight is an easy issue to solve. You could Google how to lose weight, but we never get to that Google solution, if you will, when you're anxious about something or sad about something or woe is me about something. But you can't deal with a problem when you're reacting emotionally. So you have to detach the two. Anxiety always causes, once you detach the two, you realize that every emotion has a predetermined outcome when you keep feeling that emotion. Literally, sadness leads to death. The longer you stay sad, you're actually causing the death of your cell tissue. Just that emotional, hormonal response to sadness over time deteriorates your body. So unless you turn off sadness, you can't deal with anything else. Anxiety is another fun emotion. Anxiety over time prevents you from seeing, feeling, appreciating the experiences that you're having. And so if you're anxious, you have to learn to turn that, like it's a key, turn that key off and throw it away so that you can experience or have experiences that are coming at you. Anxiety prevents you from experiencing. It's what it's designed to do. And it's a beautiful emotion. As long as you have that emotion turned on, you can't experience things very well. And it's a funny emotion. Sadness is a crucial one, and the other one's frustration. Male frustration is about as ominous as anything else. And frustration means that you're committed to doing the same dumb thing over and over and over again, which causes more frustration. But anyway, it's a long description.
What about fear?
Fear prevents you from taking action. That's the only thing it's designed to do. And the only way to overcome fear is to take action.
So for me, for example, one of the things that I'm afraid of, and I think a lot of people are, is death. And I feel like that sometimes overwhelms me or consumes me. And I think I've learned that it's not just death, but it's the fear of leaving my kids without a father. I'm curious to know how you literally dealt with that as a Navy SEAL fighting in a war with children at home?
Well, you learn, you don't actually get taught how to deal with fear. They just keep giving you things that are ominous. Like you feel like you're going to die most of the time. And so over time you realize, wow, I didn't die the last time. And I thought we were going to all die. Nothing happened at that level. So you learn to not pay attention to that emotion when it comes up, and then go do what you're supposed to do anyway. So when you tackle the fear thing, you learn to go do simple things. So if I'm afraid, like if you're afraid of heights, go up to a tall area and be there, like be present to the height. If you do that by movement, by taking action, not watch a tall movie, you go up there and look over the rail or look over the cliff until the fear goes away. If you do that, you'll stop being afraid. Mm-hmm. It may take an hour for somebody, 10 minutes for somebody. And I've taken every client, like 180 clients now, through a fear-based part of the training where we go up to a mountain and we rappel off of it and we climb back up it. Most men and women are afraid. And on the rappel, they can't do anything. Like their body gets sweaty and their fingers don't do what they're supposed to do. But once you teach them to keep doing that thing that you've taught them to do, they stop being afraid. But that's the only way to deal with fear, is to go do it anyway. Like you could have the greatest life in the world if you just went and did everything that you're afraid of doing.
I think you gave me that advice last time, or you spoke about that. And one of the things I went and did after that, because I hate snakes. My neighbor had a whole bunch of them. Mm-hmm. And so I knew I wouldn't be brave enough on my own to go hold a snake. So I created a real estate video with a whole bunch of different weird wild animals. And I brought a snake in and had it wrapped around me in the video. And that was actually because of your advice right there.
It goes away though, doesn't it? It changes. Oh. It doesn't totally ever go away, but it changes.
It did. Like part of me, I didn't run because I couldn't. I just had knee surgery, but I think I might have. But I made the decision based off of what you said. And, I don't know, since then, I've had weird dreams with snakes in it. And the snake was getting ready to attack. And instead of run, I hold my position. And right when it's coming at me to try to strike, I catch its head. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. If it has anything to do with it, but why not?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of doing everything that you're afraid of doing. And you asked the question, was I afraid to not be able to come home? For moments that would pop up, and every time I would, oh my gosh, I'm going to die, my body wouldn't function so well. And then get back on task. So don't dwell in fear, because it's our society right now. Not that you wanted to talk about that.
No, we can.
So COVID-19 is literally fear-based. It's not fact-based. And it has caused the world to lock up. Like people aren't doing the simple things anymore. And the acronym, if you will, of fear is future events occurring real.
Appearing real.
Or false events occurring real, or something like that.
False evidence appearing real.
Yeah. And you believe it.
Right.
Everybody thinks they're going to die if they don't put on a mask. The mask ain't going to protect anybody from this virus.
Right. Yeah,
nobody.
Stupid.
And so, but the brain only deals with fear, and it can't solve the problem. So it's told to wear a mask, and it believes it, and it's not solving anything. It's a weird thing. That's how crippling fear is. And people are afraid to go to a restaurant, or they're afraid to open their business. And then since the government's afraid and we're afraid, they're not making good decisions.
Right.
So that's the product of fear. And somebody's going to come out and say, I'm done. We're going to go back to work, whether it be the president or a governor. Hey, everybody go back to work. Figure this out. We're not all going to die. We'll protect each other, but let's not live in fear. And it will change the moment that happens.
I think in general, what I've noticed in our society, and I don't want to go too political here, but what I've learned is our society has become extremely soft.
Yep.
And
Terribly.
that we have so much fear or worry or anxiety that we're allowing to give up our rights because of it.
Yep.
And I mean, you made it one of the best analogies, I think, in the last episode where, you said, 50, 60 years ago, well, it's maybe a little bit more than that now. If you needed to go to the bathroom, the majority of America had to go outside in the dead of night if you needed to go at night when it was cold, to an outhouse. And you had to have grit, or you had to go draw water from a well.
Yep.
The idea of a society of becoming emotionally and mentally weak has occurred, and we've all allowed ourselves to, not just in this scenario, but in general, lose mental strength. But that's something that you said last time. Going on to, because I want to get back to your book here, 3 Simple Things Leading Through Chaos. How, when you're going through chaos, when you're going through, situations like COVID or bullets being fired at you, or it feels like your life is falling apart, how are you able to lead through chaos as a person, whether it's overseas or in your own family, in your business?
So I'll define chaos as a forest filled with 1 million trees, 1 million birds, animals, snakes, ditches, briars. So there's 1 million data points all coming at you at once. So that's what chaos is. It's overwhelming. There's too much. I can't deal with it. Combat to the outsider seems like chaos. To a SEAL, it's very plain and simple. And so I wanted to define chaos first. So, and actually the segue into this was a beautiful way to segue. It's not that we have gone soft, as we've begun to negotiate with ourselves of what we're capable of doing. So 3 simple things, and the chaos experiment, if you will, is you got to be able to find simple things during chaotic environments in those 5 categories that we talked about earlier, and have them be non-negotiable for you. And if you don't mind, I'll spell it out if you
please
want me to. So what I train people to do creates scale. So if you lead the 6-hour non-negotiable day of 3 simple things, again, it's 6 hours that you're not negotiating with. No matter any day that ends in Y, which is every day, you're going to do this 6-hour day. The first thing that you do is your spiritual time, which ends up being 15 minutes in the morning of 3 simple things. The first thing is to get every joint and every muscle in your body moving. And I'll tell you why that's a great spiritual thing to do. The second of the simple things, of the 3 simple things spiritually, is to have all your 5 senses available. And there's a process to turn each one of them on. And then the third of this 3 simple things is what I call strategic. So all 3 simple things are offensive, defensive, and strategic. So the third one is to declare or pray. The prayer and a declaration are supposed to be the same thing. Sometimes it gets off the rail. And So those three things take 15 minutes in the morning. The next thing that you do takes 15 minutes is to relate the significant people in your life. Take your wife or husband, for example. The first thing that you do is listen to your wife. Listen. I say that like not tongue in cheek and smack the table. The most important part of a relationship is your ability to committedly listen to your partner. And that's the first thing that you do. The second thing is the ability to share and speak. So 5 minutes of listening, 5 minutes of speaking, and then 5 minutes of intimacy. Those three simple things, both spiritually and relationally, will make more difference to every human being than making $1 million. Then the third thing that you do, or the third pyramid, if you will, takes a little bit longer, 90 minutes. It's before you go to work, is to work out for an hour. Meaning, if you're a runner, run, do something that helps you be a runner. If you're a swimmer, swim. If you're just a generalized athlete, do general things for an hour. And then stretch for 20 minutes and drink throughout the day 10 glasses of water. Very simple things. 3 simple things. It's not difficult. And then go to work. So at work, you have to fight to get in front of somebody every day. Take an hour to prospect. Like the key, be on the offense for an hour. And then the second thing is to be on the defense by dealing with existing clients for an hour. And then thirdly, go to a freaking safe space in your office or somewhere and think about where you want to be, where the business wants to be in the next 3 years, not encumbered with dealing with the realities that you have. If you need, gosh, I would like to have a $10 million company. You can't think about that if you're worrying about taxes. So put everything away and go, boy, ideally, where do I want to be in 3 years? And then throughout the day, try to learn one new thing intellectually. Try to get better at one thing that you've already learned. So if you've already learned math, try to find a quicker way to do math. Or if you've already learned to speak Spanish, find a better way to enunciate Spanish. And then the third thing is to allow yourself to dream. Intellectual dreaming is key. And that's throughout the whole day. And then you're done with work. You come back, you pick up what you have not done physically. So if you didn't stretch, do your stretching then. And then reconnect with your wife or spouse by listen, speak, and intimacy. And then right before you go to bed, the last 15 minutes, move every muscle in your body and every joint, turn all your senses back on, and pray or declare who you are and what you're trying to accomplish right before you go to bed. Ends up being a 6-hour day. It seems difficult, but it's extremely simple. By doing that, I have taken people that were non-runners to running ultra marathons by just doing that. We've helped 18 companies 4X in a year. And I wouldn't have thought this 6 years ago when I retired, but my wife and I and my company have probably saved 90 relationships at the CEO level, which I'm more pleased about that than I am the money that they made.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that within real estate, I've noticed in my own career, it goes up, it goes down seasonally.
Mm-hmm.
You know, right now it's gangbusters, believe it or not, if it's under 200,000. But after I sell all my stuff, there's going to be a drop because then I need to go get more business. How does a person sustain high levels of performance so that it will essentially be level versus a roller coaster ride?
I think you're asking yourself to leap tall buildings in a single bound, meaning that it's not possible to not have a sine curve. But what is possible is to be on the offense on the downside. And so always fight to be in front of somebody. Always reconnect with people that you've already had as clients. And always consider every day how this is going to play out in the next 3 years. So it really doesn't matter what temperature it is outside, if it's summer, if it's fall, if it's COVID-19 or global freaking warming or some other disaster. Don't negotiate with the offense, defense, and strategic times that you have. And that was only 3 hours a day. Obviously, you're going to work more than 3 hours.
Right.
Or not so obvious. But don't just be on the defense when things get bad. So if you like take an inventory, and everybody listening, if you've taken an inventory during this COVID crisis, did you actually try to call somebody new every day? Did you call an existing client every day? And did you consider strategy every single day? The answer, I guarantee, is no to all three of them. Or people get protective and like, well, I'm just going to let this play out. I'm not going to deal with anything until somebody makes a decision. So you spent 18 days not being on point in those three simple things. That then is the crisis. So, another way to answer what you're saying is you don't want the sun and the moon and the earth to revolve. They're still going to revolve. There's still going to be daylight. There's still going to be night. Don't negotiate with that. So the sine curve doesn't matter. The reason why the lows get low and the highs get high and then they get low quickly is because people don't do simple things. It would feel more flat if you were always doing simple things all the time. Like it's easier to stay in shape and to get into shape.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It does. And so what you're saying is essentially use what we just talked about, the 6-hour day, as a way, let me put it this way, like rails in a bowling alley so you don't bowl gutter balls.
Right.
They're there to protect you. And while business may be cyclical and there's going to be things moving up and down, but they're there to help keep you pointed straight. That way you don't go off into the gutter.
Yeah. And so you consider that from an investment point of view, which is an interesting thing to consider in the wealth space. Everybody seems to like an up market, a market that's going up.
Right.
Except investors. Traders don't like an up market. They like a market that's selling, which is a down market. I have some friends that work on the Chicago Exchange. They've made their lifetime earnings during this sell-off. Like one I know made $28 million in 2 days.
Wow. Because
they're not worried. They know that there's always going to be ups and downs, and they're leveraging. They don't care what it is. On an up market, there's not a lot of stuff going on an up market because until somebody sells something, it's not a good thing to an investor. So investors like it when it's selling, not when it's buying, because it's cool if you're a money market or money manager when people are buying your stuff. But the real millionaires are made when there was a sell and that they saw the sell coming. So when you're talking to new people all the time, you're getting a sense of what's going to happen. You're dealing with existing things on a day-to-day basis. and then you're thinking strategically, they saw this thing coming. Some people hedged the market or shorted the market in December because they saw it coming. And the rest of us just play the trend and not know why it's a trend. That we look at the data and play in a lag data trend, which is, it's a good way to invest, but the big money is made when they are always thinking strategically. They're always talking to, hey, the farmer. All right, what's going on the farm? All right, hey, all my people that have given me money, what do you consider? So they're always playing those three simple things all the time, and they don't neglect them ever. We as like the common people in the investment cycle are lagging so far behind that we're hoping and praying that our money managers know what they're doing. The big players make billions during downturns.
Right. There's this phrase that I like to use specifically with people that want to, quote unquote, invest in real estate. I always tell them you're going to make your money on the purchase, not the sale of the home. It's where you can buy the house at a good price. Mm-hmm. So that makes a lot of sense, what you're saying to me.
Yeah, and just in real estate, strategically, this is a strategic conversation. Commercial real estate is going to have to adjust.
Right.
Because of fear. Like there's buildings that owner of building now can't fill 15 floors because nobody's going to work. So the future of commercial real estate, whoever's investing in real estate, you better adjust. Or now is the time to buy because nobody can sell, so they're dropping the price. I don't know. I'm not a commercial real estate, investor, but the world has changed. The commercial real estate world has changed based on fear. And it's not for the investor to go, okay, well, it's changed. I just need to figure out how I play in the commercial real estate market. Maybe this is the time to exit it, or maybe it's the time to gobble it all up because everybody else is exiting at low cost. Who knows? It's just a different way to look at it.
Right. You're talking about during this moment of COVID where you said, have you called someone every day, called someone new? And, I called my closest friends, checked on them, a few acquaintances. Other than that, I didn't reach out, unless if it was business related, I didn't reach out to a whole lot of people. And so I guess my question for you in terms of your book, how does a person go about creating profound, lifelong, thriving relationships?
Look at every relationship. Think about the profound ones first, or the primary ones, which are the spousal, the kids. Listen to your spouse. And I say that oddly enough because most of my clients have been male CEOs. And when I take them to the part of the training where we deal with relationships, I give them a 21-day task that they have to spend 30 minutes a day with their spouse. And until they can do it for 21 days straight, we can't move on to the next training. I have yet to see one CEO accomplish the 21-day relationship challenge in 21 days. Dumbfounded me. I'm like, what do you mean you can't spend 30 minutes a day with your wife or husband or whatever? I don't have time. Okay, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty here. If you can listen to your wife or husband, you will have 33% a better relationship with them. If you can speak committedly to them, like share with them, this is what I'm going to do today. This is what happened today. And, so share. So what I found, and then have some kind of relative intimacy, touch, kiss, hug, something. What they were doing was speaking, and then not having anything that was interesting about their spouse. What they found, the quickest the CEO has been able to get through 21 days straight has been 6 weeks. Most of them take 3 months. Like, I'm not going to tell you anything else. I'm not going to teach you anything new until your relationship at home is on point for 30 minutes. Whether you can do it virtually, you can write a letter. They can write you a letter or a text or an email. And then you can still do virtual intimacy, not saying it's odd, but the porn world has already figured out virtual intimacy. So you can say, hey, I love you in a text, or send, what I'm saying, not to get gross about it, but there's a way to solve it, whether you're there or not. Another funny are the rules of thumb. The moment the CEO has 30 minutes a day for 21 days, they relate you empathically at work. The moment that happens at work, they make their quarterly budget that week just by the CEO having a good relationship at home. Here's what happens if you don't have that relationship at home. At some point in time, like if I could invest, or if I could bet against that company in Vegas, I would bet against that company that within the next year, a divorce will happen and that CEO will lose 6 months of productivity and half of his income. And that's just the reality of a divorce. You lose 6 months of productivity and energy and all that stuff, and you lose half of your income. If just to hedge against that, commit to your primary relationship. The other derivatives of that is when you can have a wife or husband at home that you can listen, speak, and touch, you will learn something new about them every single day. It doesn't matter if you're married for 30 years. Like, listen to your wife. Hey, honey, what are you doing today? Wow, I didn't know that's what you were interested in, because people never listen at that level. And then just touching your family is probably more important than listening, because kids require it. Your wife, husband require you to touch them. If you don't, they'll demand 3 hours. So every day you don't have those 3 simple things, you're accruing a 3-hour debt of demand. If you spend now 7 days, you can't overcome a 21-hour day. You can never give somebody 21 hours of attention. So by giving them 3 simple things in a relationship, it'll rapidly solve most of the problems that you have at work. Like, the energy that it gives you is paramount.
So this is really hitting home for me on a couple levels. One, I definitely need to do better at that with my spouse. I think in the evenings, we just feel so exhausted that we will sit down in front of the boob tube, meaning the TV, and watch TV together and not spend a lot of quality time, that we just kind of go brain dead, or allow ourselves to be brain dead, because we're exhausted with the kids from work, and it's just like, all right, let's just veg out. And I would say for about a week and a half now, one of the routines that I started changing with specifically my children is, before I would just go put them in bed, pray, kiss them, go on. My wife would do it, or I would do it. And for most parents, including ourselves, it's been a challenge to get your kids to go to bed. My youngest one in particular, who's getting ready to be 2. And one day, I was just so frustrated because he kept getting out of bed. I didn't know what to do. And I went in his room and I was all mad, and he's out of his crib, and I just pick him up and I sit in the rocking chair, and I don't squeeze the life out of him, but I just hold him tightly, and he puts his head on my shoulder, and then he can't reach the floor, but his feet can reach the seat cushion, and he's pushing up for me to rock him. So he's constantly pushing with me to rock. And about 15 minutes or less of that, I give him the physical touch. I speak positive words of encouragement, and I prayed with him. And then I just said, all right, Levi, are you ready to go to bed? And just very soft, meek voice, he goes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I put him to bed. And he didn't get out. He didn't freak out. And then the next day, I did it again. And he didn't get out of bed. And then the next day. And every day that we've been doing that, he hasn't been getting out of bed. The moment I stopped doing it, the moment I stopped, it was like hell for the evening.
The demand.
Yeah.
Like humans actually, what I found out is they demand that from people that are that close to them. And the intimacy the intimacy solution can be brief, like brushing by your wife and touching her back. But that's all she needs. She knows you're there. You don't have to get in her face and, bug her and all those things that you think are intimacy. Just her knowing that you're there by you touching her. If you don't give them that, they'll demand 3 times the amount. And then if you keep not give it to them, they'll push you away. Then it's a weird situation. Then they're really in demand. If a woman doesn't allow you to touch her, she's demanding that you touch her.
Yeah.
And and same things with kids. How do you create intimacy at work? That is the key. And it's a hard problem to solve with the HR environment. And now with COVID, it's very difficult to solve. But they have to feel that you're there, proximate to them. Like if you're the boss or you're working for somebody or somebody's working for you, speak or listen, speak, and touch. Some kind of intimate contact is crucial. Whether HR agrees with me or not, I'm not in the position to go to force the law, but I'm telling you, if you want to make a profound difference, create that intimacy, some kind of physical touch intimacy with the people you work with, and watch what happens. I'm not saying the gross side of it happens.
Right.
I'm just saying their productivity goes up, what I say now is by a level of 7. Right. Or don't give it to them and they'll go down by a level of 7.
I love what you're saying, because the HR world is crazy right now. But I just remember someone, when I met them, not for the first time, but knows me, came up, said, "Hi, Evan," and touched the side of my arm and just kind of, just a little squeeze, like a little hi. It for whatever reason, it like did something inside of me. It, not sexually, just it like, I felt energy.
Mm-hmm.
I felt loved. I felt cared for. And it's so awesome that you're saying that, because it's so true. There's things that you can do to do that for other people. And even regarding family, something that you're sharing that I've learned over the past 2 months. I was talking to my spouse just about our physical life, and I've had 2 injuries. My knee, that you're aware of,
mm-hmm.
And that's, I'm still recovering from that. I've come a long way. I'm not back yet. And then before that, I had a really bad groin injury that lasted a year. So for the past few years, I've been injured, and it's actually hindered some of our physical intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's decreased that. And I remember going to my wife one day, like, hey, what can we do differently that we can make this more fulfilling for both of us?
Mm-hmm.
That it doesn't feel, not that it's a chore by any means, but that it becomes exciting again.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that she said is, she goes, Evan, she goes, I would like to cuddle with you more. I'd like to hold your hand and not you push it away. I'd like to lean up against you without you pushing me away. And it was one of those moments that I realized the pain that I was causing my wife by that. And you're thinking like, this idiot, why is he pushing his wife away? Well, I realized because I felt bloated. I overate and I felt icky,
Mm-hmm.
or I wasn't eating healthy, and it negatively affected my body, and it made me irritable, and I just didn't want to be touched. And because of that, I kept pushing my wife away, which made intimacy harder.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized our intimate life not only had physical aspects that hindered it, but then emotional aspects that I was causing it.
Yep.
When I learned that aspect with my wife, that I kept pushing her away, I think subconsciously, that's when I started losing weight and eating less. Because over the past 2-ish months, I've lost a substantial amount of weight, 30-ish pounds. And I feel a lot better. I've engaged more physically with my wife in holding hands and cuddling, not to get anything, but to just fill her love bank.
Mm-hmm.
And through everything that you're saying, I wrote 3 things down about the 6-hour day, and with what you're saying is, in order to be able to show up for others the way we need to, I've realized from what you're saying is we first need to show up for ourselves, both mentally, physically, and spiritually. Because
Mm-hmm.
if we're depleted in those areas, then we can't give anything to anyone else, because we've bankrupted ourselves for that day.
Mm-hmm.
So
Agreed.
am I tracking with you?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. They're all intertwined. The spiritual 3 simple things of the reason why you move every muscle and every joint and turn on all your 5 senses and then declare who you are, like prescriptively declare who you are and what you're trying to accomplish, which is a form of prayer. A declaration is a form of prayer. Humans are the conduit for spiritual intervention. And unless your senses and body are available to it, unless your temple, if you will, is available to any spiritual intervention, you can't get it. So if you're doing the spiritual and whether you're injured or not, you still have to do an hour of movement. So my legs are done. Okay. Nobody cares. Work out some way. Get your body moving. Maybe it's crawling on the ground for an hour.
Yeah.
But don't not do it. So when those are on point and you're listening and speaking and touching, and that's still going on, and you're constantly learning, and you're on point at work, they get so intertwined that when you drop one, you see the impact that it has on another. And as you engage one, like you're engaging the relational side, you see that the physical side is intertwined with it. So had everybody been on point with working out, stretching, and hydrating, 10 glasses of water is a weight reduction mechanism. Like if people drink 10 glasses of water a day, their body will metabolize better. So it's that simple. So if you're doing them all, you realize, wow, if I feel good about myself physically, intimacy is easier. And if you haven't turned your body on, and then all the joints and muscles are moving and all my sensors are now the conduit for me to have some spiritual intervention. And if I don't pray or declare myself, when I don't do that, you'll see the travesty that you cause throughout the day.
Right.
So when they become on point, then it's simple to make big changes or big outcome changes. So if you want to be a really good athlete, get everything else on point. Like that's why you hire a coach, to maintain the rest of your life. They'll teach you technique, but they're saying, all right, have you eaten and drank the right amount today? Have you taken care of your work? Do you have any debt? So what will kill athletes is debt. So somebody else takes charge of that for them. So it's a weird dynamic when you see it at a high level, is somebody else is taking charge of the other things in their life so that they can maintain a higher level in one of those areas. Multi-millionaires have to have coaches, because when the other areas fall apart, their money falls apart. And so they see that, and I see that now in business, is when the relationships at home work, the business booms. When it doesn't work, it gets stale. And it has nothing to do with the cycle of an industry. Like, you can turn around a business by turning around the top person.
Yeah,
or getting rid of the top person so that the top person is on point.
Right. And that goes with family as well.
Yep.
You know, as you were talking about physical stuff, so yesterday, I actually just had a physical. I hadn't had a physical in a long time. And, you know, because I lost so much weight so quick, I wanted to make sure it was because I was putting in the effort and not because there was a health issue.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so they did a psychological evaluation. They did a whole bunch of stuff. And they found a couple things that I'm actually really glad, health-wise, that is going to be fixed and taken care of. One, I don't feel comfortable sharing on the show.
That's fine. Yeah.
But the other was on the psychological evaluation, they said, hey, you're mildly depressed. And I was shocked. I was like, I'm not sad. I don't have a woe is me mentality or an outlook on life that is terrible. So I was like, I don't understand how I could be mildly depressed. And they said, well, you said here that you're anxious a lot, that you have fear of death, that, you know, you think about it more than so many times a week, and that you have a hard time going to sleep, and that you have a hard time waking up. And they said, all these are mild depression. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, now I know what this is. So how do I change this? It was kind of funny with what they said. He's like, well, this is the first time we're meeting. He goes, I'm okay with recommending a prescription for, you know, the depression and anxiety and stuff like that, and see how that helps you. And maybe that might help other things get back on track in your life. And so at the same time, I just met you. So I don't know how to gauge the situation. So you have to be self-aware enough to make this decision. And I was like, look, I don't want to take drugs because I think that this isn't a chemical thing. I think this is just a psychological thing. And I said, what is the number one thing that you think I can do to fix this? And he said, if you want to get rid of anxiety, you got to get your body moving. Mm-hmm. Because that, for whatever reason, the endorphins that causes will contradict or counteract the hormones that want to cause a result of depression.
Mhm.
I don't know the science or the neurological stuff, but that just dumbfounded me that, well, wow, I guess I just need to start moving more than what I am.
It's and so the serotonin and dopamine level in your body is reduced. The way to get back serotonin and dopamine is to find something to do that you feel like you're in charge and you get a lot of feedback from,
Mm.
and you have to be scared.
You know, that makes so much sense that you said serotonin and dopamine are depleted. What is serotonin, first of all?
So the two drugs, one is what I call the in charge enzyme or hormone. Uh, when you feel like you are in charge, responsible, the man, whatever that feeling is, it gives you a kick of serotonin. The dopamine comes from feedback. So, like your phone is a big dopamine feedback loop.
Mhm.
Uh, when you put a text out there or a DM out there and somebody responds, you get a dopamine kick. So that's the interesting thing about a phone is it's addictive chemical. That dopamine is very addictive. So if I
Right.
get a response from sticking my finger in a light socket, I'll keep doing it. So you got to find something that you feel like you're in charge, which is the serotonin pump, and the feedback. By the way, most physical things provide those two.
Mm.
Like I'm going to do this workout, and you got to tell you, okay, I'm going to do it. It's got to be scary. It's too hard. So you feel like you're in charge of your own activity, and you can feel yourself doing that activity. That gives you a serotonin bump. The dopamine is the feedback. So I did it, well or bad, doesn't matter, but I got a feedback from it. I feel terrible at night. That's still a dopamine kick
Mm.
because you did it and you got a feedback mechanism. So motion causes those two to be bumped up all the time. Somebody who's sedentary has a inherently depressed dopamine serotonin level. And that those people would say they feel down and depressed.
Which
If you
makes
get them
sense.
moving, they will get a bump of both of them.
Well, which makes a lot of sense due to my issue with my knee, because while I do some physical conditioning for my knee, a lot of my life has, over the past year, has been very sedentary,
Mm-hmm.
and which makes a lot of sense. The other thing too is that since we are wanting serotonin and dopamine, instead of getting it in a healthy way, we then oftentimes get it in a very unhealthy way. So like
Mm-hmm.
for me, mine was pop.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, what an alcoholic would be to alcohol, I was to 32 ounce plus Mountain Dews per day
Mm-hmm.
before this year. Since we talked last time, I stopped drinking soda and coffee and caffeine and getting rid of those chemicals and stuff. And so, I mean, I'm learning some of this stuff right now as we're talking, how we deplete ourselves by not doing the things that we need to do to get the chemical releases that we need, but then we substitute those chemical releases by doing something else that is actually negative for our body. So that's just, I don't know. Thank you for sharing that,
Yeah,
because that just opened up.
just by doing the three simple things for 6 hours gives you a serotonin dopamine bump much more than you could possibly imagine. Because the feedback from your spouse by listening is a dopamine pump. And when you when you pray, that's a serotonin pump. Unless you're praying for something that you're praying for, forgiveness is not a serotonin release.
Right.
Oddly, the initiation of a prayer is not to ask for help. It's
Right.
to declare.
Mm.
And so a lot of prayers have gone off the ramp on the wrong side, so to speak.
That makes sense.
And then every time you work out, you get both. Every time you go to work. So it's scary when you call somebody up. That's a scary endeavor. It truly is to salespeople too.
Right.
Dang, man, I got to call this dude. So then you get, so that's just, you have to dominate a call, which is a serotonin bump. The dopamine bump is when you call somebody that's already, a great client, and they give you a dopamine release. So those three simple things, I can't say they cure depression, but you can't get depressed if you're on point. It can't happen. So, yeah.
I got a few more questions here for you. And some of these we've kind of already touched on. So I'm just trying to decide here. I think these two are almost the same answer, which is, how does one deal with hardship and change? Would you just go back to saying do the 6 hour day would be how to deal with that?
So change, so take injury, for example. You're a phenomenal runner and you blew your knee out. Change now is paramount. You can't do what you're normally doing, so you have to change. The key to change is recognizing that you can't do what you normally were doing and you have to do it differently. So the crisis, the financial or the wealth crisis during this shutdown is recognizing that you have to change and then not doing the things that you were doing before. So the key is recognizing that that you have to change and then doing it differently. So change, you have to alter. Don't do what you were doing before. Change. Most people don't know how to do that. The quicker people alter, pivot, change, adapt, the better things are. And 80% of the human population cannot change quickly. 20% do it very quickly, and then they're always the most successful. So hardship is another thing. So things can get hard. So you lost your job, whether you did it or somebody else did it. Your wife leaves at the same time, or they die in an accident. So hardship is a very difficult matter. Recognizing that it's gone is hard to do. That's probably why they call it hardship. So if it's hard, you got to notice that it's going to be hard for a while. The only recommendation I say to overcome hardship is to stop being a weenie about it.
Right.
There's a lot of solutions. You can quit. That's a solution. It won't make it easier though. So the hardship doesn't go away when you quit. You just postpone it. The other one is to triple down. Like if you have to gut it up for a while, then gut it up for a while. The middle of the road of hardship is maybe I should slack off a little bit and hope things will adapt. That's where most people find themselves. That's why they don't deal with hardship very well, is because they slack off. So I'm a big fan of doubling down. When things get tough, get hard on yourself, on what you're doing, triple your activity, double your activity. But don't stay middle of the road.
That makes sense. In this time, and it's not just even now with COVID, but in life in general, we will all experience the loss of someone we love. And while I've never been in the military, there's a season of my life that's about now 12 years where I've experienced a loss of someone relatively close in my life. And it's been a very hard season. And then over time, I just learned to cope and deal with it and expect that death is a part of life. But what advice would you give to someone on how to work through loss?
God, that's a 15-hour conversation. The truth about life is that physical life is temporary. Their physical life for you was temporary anyway. You weren't with the person that you lost 24 hours a day. You probably saw them once a month or once a year or once a week. So your experience of them was always temporary anyway. But your mental experience of them is what you sustain. So temporary physical life, but sustained mental life aspect, if you will. And another way of saying that is life never really leaves people mentally. So we carry each other with, I carry people with me mentally 24 hours a day. So learn that's the truth. So deal with how you're carrying that person with you mentally and get good at that, as opposed to wanting them there physically with you all the time, which nobody is anyway, which is it's a paradox. Even I'm not with my wife all the time. Her loss is it's a small temporal loss, but mentally I don't know how to deal with that. So it's your brain. Learn how to deal with how you carry somebody with you. And it's a hard endeavor. So learn how to deal with who somebody is for you mentally.
That is so good. I will definitely
I see my mom twice a year physically, like standing in her presence twice a year. How I carry her is entirely up to me all those 363 other days. And so if she died, I would only miss 2 days of my experience with her. If you understand the dynamic of what I'm saying.
Right.
So we don't get good at human beings, so how we carry somebody with us on a day-to-day basis. Like losing a SEAL. He was a good dude. All my memories of him are my choice. So I just reprogram how I remember the things that I've done with somebody that I know has died.
That is very profound. I've never in my 32 years of life heard that view before. Like that reshapes.
Let me say this. So nobody's met God. Nobody's met God.
Right.
Think about that. So how we carry God in our brain is entirely up to us. And we've never met the person. But we carry him or her, whatever religion you are, is entirely up to us. Get good at that. So loss is not the physical loss that we're not good at. Excuse me, but it's the mental anguish that we carry with us that we never learn to be good at. I would rather be good at that because that's what I carry with me. And you can reprogram that. Your thoughts are entirely up to you and nobody else.
I'm speechless. I'm thoroughly going to go down that rabbit hole on my own and and ponder that. I've never heard life and death explained that way. So thank you, literally from the bottom of my heart, because that's probably going to help me in so many ways I don't even realize yet.
If you don't carry it with you, if you carry it with you negative, that's your choice, and it will destroy you. And that's the funny thing is, whatever happens in your brain is 100% up to you and nobody else.
Why do you think we allow loss? Because when I think of the friends and the child and the grandparents and the neighbors and the classmates, it just hurts.
You get stuck in one experience,
Which is the
So-
loss.
yeah. So, wow, in the moment, it's very hurtful. It probably should be in the moment, like relative to the time they departed. Is there a periodicity to it? I have no idea, but notice that you have to transition. So now who is this person for me? 2 months later, how am I going to carry this person? And figure out how I'm going to carry them for the next 2 months mentally. If I'm going to carry anger further or sadness further, that's an emotional response, which was our first conversation. Be careful what you carry with you, and remember it's entirely up to you. Like the brain is so supple, you can reprogram it to think anything it can think. So you lost a brother, you lost a girlfriend, you lost money, whatever that thing is. How you think of it 2 months away from the occurrence is mastery.
Wow. I'm writing this down. Golly.
Yeah, everybody has loss, but nobody unprogram or reprograms it. Like, parents lose kids either by accident or in delivery. Mothers have miscarriages and they carry that loss with them for years. My question is why? Why are you still carrying that same burden 20 years later? It's tragic.
Man. Wow. Well, I don't want to just die on that subject right there by any means. Let me, I like to end the show with the same 3 questions, but because you've already been on the show, I came up with a new set of questions for you. What do you want people to remember you for?
I would rather people remember themselves than remember me.
How so?
Gosh, I would, my biggest passion is that I'm not important. Like, I don't want to be the center of somebody's recollection of their past. I would rather them think of how great they were as opposed to how great I was.
Okay. I'm trying to wrap my head around this. I mean, it's your answer, so it's correct.
Yeah, I don't want the legacy conversation is that other people have a great life.
Based off of your work?
Based off of their own, well, yeah. So if you want to say based off, yeah. So that I created the condition that other people have a great life.
Perfect. What's the most important decision that you've ever made?
Leaving at the top, leaving the SEAL teams when I was at the top.
Go into that.
I was at the top of my game, and the best decision I ever made was not letting the game fall apart before I left it.
What was your biggest regret, and how did you reshape yourself moving forward?
Man, I'm Stacy asked me if I ever have regrets, and I can never come up with any. Like I don't hold on to, I don't have that emotional response for some reason. So it would be a manufactured answer. Like I don't have regrets.
Right. No,
Yeah.
that's fine. I'd rather you be honest than.
Yeah, I don't have
Manufacturing it.
regrets. And even my daughter's like, all those people you killed, you don't regret that? I'm like, the thought never occurred to me to regret what I've done.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
How do you think that you came about that?
It's just not been a response that I've had. I think I stole a magazine from a shelf once and got caught. And I don't hold that as a regret. I just hold that as, damn it, I got caught.
Or a learning experience not to do it again?
Let's just don't get caught. But I don't have that emotional response, and maybe that's why Stacy says that I'm not socially acceptable.
That's funny. Thom, thank you so much for coming back on to the show to talk with us today. And Amazon released your book. Have they released it on both hardback and paperback?
Yeah, it's everywhere now. So it's trade paperback on Amazon. It's in the hardbound as well. It's on ebook. It's in Barnes and Noble and Indie and all the different places that you can order. The official release date's Memorial Day. We're going to hold a big event around Independence Day, virtual, and but our big event is going to be around Independence Day, even though the book's out now.
Gotcha. Thank you, Amazon.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. Well, Thom, thank you so much for coming on to the show. I look forward to hopefully our next conversation. Have a great day.
Yep. Thanks, Evan.
When I started this podcast, it was important for me to lead by example, that I wouldn't hide behind a fake mask, acting like I've arrived and speaking from the mountaintop. My whole purpose was to be vulnerable about where I was, my failures, my struggles, and my successes, so that I could be a bridge, that I could be a gap in this process of showing people how to change in the areas of faith, family, finances, friendship, fitness, and fun, because that's exactly where I'm at and what I'm doing. And I had a coach years ago, and he was the first coach I've ever had. And he did it for a very affordable rate because I couldn't afford anything more than what he offered me. But he told me this, Evan, someday you're going to get in a spot where you're going to be able to give back to others. And I want you to remember what I'm doing for you here and now, that it's made affordable so that you can actually go through it. He goes, I believe in you, and I trust that you'll do this. And so because of that, it resonated within me that at a certain point, when I felt I've had enough hard knocks that I had something to offer other people, I would start a coaching program. And this is that. I am now starting a coaching program, and I'm going to make it affordable because by the graces of someone else that helped me out when I was first starting my journey, I wanted to do the same for other people. So I'm going to offer a free 15-minute coaching phone call to anyone that wants it. You can go to the website, thewholepersonpodcast.com, and sign up for that free coaching phone call. And if you're looking to have a longer, extended coaching relationship outside of that first 15-minute phone call, I have the prices right up front. I'm open about it, and I'd be more than happy to see if we'd work well with one another and can help you reach and achieve the goals that you have in life. Guys, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the show.